what do you think consciousness? What do you think the role is with this whole phenomenon is like?
Oh,
It,
wow.
is I don't want to make it more complicated by asking the second part, but like, is everything one or is all not one? If that makes any sense to you.
Well, it's all connected, I think is fair to say. There are principles in science now that are looking into things such as string theory, potentially, or holographic theory about our universe, and there are discussions going on right now within the scientific community of what human consciousness really is. And I don't mean sitting there in the lotus position and meditating. I'm talking about the processes that occur within the human brain that signify. So you know what? I'm going to show you something, if you don't mind.
Story
I'm going to
time.
digress. So let me digress.
Yes, dude. It's
So-
crazy because I wrote out this whole thing, but I chose to like make it simple. So if you need some time, I could read that.
If this square, okay, represent, I don't know if you can see it with the glare, hopefully.
Yeah,
You can see this
we can
square
see
on
it.
this piece of paper
Yeah.
represents the human body, okay? And the human body has something inside the circle, which is called a brain. And that brain resides inside the body, and the brain is responsible for certain functions and biological functions that keep the body alive, keeps your heart rate going and your breathing. And your body, coincidentally, is also responsible for keeping the brain alive through circulatory processes and whatnot. So the brain needs the body, and the body needs the brain. And so the brain is responsible for thinking, the body is responsible for protecting and moving and sustaining. And that's what a lot of people consider life. But there's another element. There's another element to the human being, and possibly to all sentient life. And that is the notion of this triangle. And that triangle is what some have referred to as the soul or the id or the chi or the spirit, right? It is something that does reside inside the body, but is not contained necessarily within inside the body. And is it possible that consciousness is part of that process, that spirit, that thing that is all encompassing of what a human being really is, the essence, if you will imagine distilling a human being down to its actual essence, and that is what you have left over once the carbon of the body is gone, and whatnot, the organics, if you will. What's left behind? And that is the great mystery of the universe, because it is possible to some degree. Some people have speculated that's maybe how people can remote view and psychic abilities and all these things that seem to be paranormal, when in reality may have a very perfectly rational explanation. It's just part of a hidden kingdom, but a hidden kingdom to which we're all connected. That's certainly something that is it's possible. It's hard to measure things that you can't see or feel or touch or taste, right? So how do you measure it? Well, you measure that in the value of love and expression and art, right? Things that are intangible but are expressions of the human spirit. Random acts of kindness, right? People who give more than they take. So again, I don't want to get too esoteric on you, but I think that human consciousness is something that we don't really understand very well. I think it is potentially something that is beyond the carbon unit that we call a human being. Case in point, if I get in combat and I God forbid me or a buddy of mine loses a leg or an arm or both my legs, right? I'm still Lou. We just minus a couple limbs. And if I have a traumatic brain injury caused by sustained in combat, or perhaps maybe I was born with unfortunately with a mental challenge, I'm still Lou, just because I'm not necessarily be as smart as others. I'm still Lou. So that's not what defines who Lou is, or you, Ben, or you, Joe, or anybody in your audience. You're not defined by what you see in the mirror, and you're not defined necessarily even by what you think or how you think. There's something else that makes Ben, and Joe, and Lou, Lou. So the question is, what is that? What is that? This elusive property that we're looking for, this fourth element, if you will, of of matter, and does it lie in the spiritual world? I mean, I've been privy to some pretty extraordinary things. I don't talk about them publicly, but I tend to be a fairly rational minded guy. I went to school and studied science and have degrees in that field and believe in the scientific method and process. But there are other elements out there that science can't explain yet. And I think it's okay. And I think we should be wary of just poo-pooing it and be like, nah, that doesn't exist. Well,
Mhm.
okay, but there was a time that people didn't know electricity existed, right? You saw
Yeah.
lightning in the sky and, oh, the gods are angry. You had no
Right.
idea that it was electrons moving from cloud to cloud.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we kind of laugh about it, but that was, for a lot of people, that was real, man. That was the gods are angry. I don't know
Yeah.
about anything called electricity, but I know that the gods mad. So we're always learning. We're on this journey of teaching each other and learning from each other, hopefully, and not trying to stifle each other's thoughts and dreams and hopes.